All right, all right. We should be live. We should be live, ready to go. We are live. Absolutely, we are live. I want to make sure the audio is good. And we're going to jump right into this. It is time to get things back up and running with this channel. I want to get back into things, and we're really going to do that. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern. We talk about Atlanta Falcons. We talk about the Atlanta Hawks. This is no longer the First and Frame Rate show. I will get into a more in-depth situation or more talk about that situation, maybe within a couple of weeks. But now this is the VF Sports channel. I am VF Baller. Like I said, we talk about Georgia Southern, Atlanta Falcons, and Atlanta Hawks over here. And we are switching things up, but keeping things the same, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. What do you guys think? Nevertheless, hopefully people will come in. I'm going to wait for about a good minute or so. If anybody comes in, great. If not, we're just going to keep it rolling because I got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. I want to talk about the 2025 draft. I want to talk about the undrafted free agents that we end up signing because there's a couple of good guys that I saw that really stood out, like why this person didn't get drafted. And we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Sheduer Sanders. I'm going to give my real thoughts about that. And it's a little unfortunate, but it's not that big of a deal. Most people want to make it out to be. And, in life, it is what it is. But nevertheless, we'll talk about that within the next hour and a half. I want to try to do this within maybe an hour, 10 minutes, or whatever the case may be. So we're going to talk about all of that. I'm going to give it about another minute or so, see if anybody comes in. I know a lot of people may get the notifications. This channel has been in a drought, so people may not want to click right away because it's been a while. The algorithm is not algorithming, if that's something. It's not going to pick up as fast as like my other channel that has been doing more activity over there. Well, when I hit the live button, I usually have 5, 6, 7 people jump in right away. That channel still growing as well. That is the VF Cast channel. And over there, we talk about gaming. I mean, you look at my background, you see what I mean. Talk about gaming and everything under that umbrella. So this is going to be a little slow process, but I got to get back into it. I got to start doing things like I used to, after the football season. And with the football season, basically, kind of starting up with the draft, it's time to start putting more content on the channel. So with that being said, we're going to talk some Eagles, Georgia Southern, that is. You see them right over here. I need to put some more Falcons stuff up here, don't you think? I think I need to get some more Falcons gear on the wall so it'd be more of a balanced represent. And I also maybe need to put some Atlanta Hawks stuff in here too. So just have like a mix of everything in the background as I talk about, our favorite teams. And we'll go from there. Well, let's see what we're at the 3-minute mark. We're just going to go ahead and go in. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons 2025 NFL draft, the recap. What did they do? How did they do it? What are my thoughts? What is the consensus over the landscape of the Falcons fans? And it might be surprising because this is like one of the first time I actually seen like everybody, maybe like 95 to 98% of the fan base is actually like thumbs up to what Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris, and the rest of the staff done. I think, and in my opinion, I think they did a very, very solid job. I mean, it was really amazing how the first round, came through and how that played out. So we're gonna let me see if I can pull this up so you can all see this. Right here. I'm up here looking at the wrong thing. Okay, so let's see. Let's pull up the screen, and we're going to. Here we go. All right, how does that look? Does that look good? I don't know. Let's see. Let's do this. MLB The Show 25. Yeah, go about it. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this. In the first round, the Falcons end up taking Jalen Walker, edge rush linebacker out of Georgia. Now, this is a pick that pretty much was almost like a no-brainer, to be honest. I mean, once he fell at 15, a lot of people were thinking James Pierce, which we'll talk about him in a second. Everybody was like, James Pierce is supposed to be the guy because Jalen Walker was supposed to be already gone. But him at 15, the Falcons basically sat there and was like, okay, what are we going to do when it comes to this pick? Are we going to trade out of it? Should we go ahead and pick Jalen? Should we pick James Pierce? Because they took like the entire segment. I think it's 10 minutes to draft. I think they took every bit of the minute. I think they got down to like 30 seconds or something. I remember listening to it on the radio because I don't really watch TV like that anymore. So I was listening to it on the radio. Shout out to 929 The Game, and it was like down to like 30 seconds, and I was like, all right, are they going to get passed over? They're going to miss the pick, or are they looking for somebody to trade? Is Kirk Cousins a part of this situation that they're going to try to? Because there's been rumblings about Kirk Cousins possibly being traded as well. So do you take that number 15 pick and trade Kirk Cousins and package it together to find a way to get out of the 15th and get some good draft capital? What are you doing? But at the end, around about 30, I think 45, 30 seconds, the Falcons decided to jump in and take Jalen Walker. And this is exactly what you want. You already got a handful of good linebackers, but then again, you got Troy Anderson, which I like Troy Anderson. Troy Anderson is one of those guys that is constantly hurt, but when he's on the field, he's absolutely great. He had a pick 6 last season, so he does what he do. You got Caden Ellis, which is as solid as a rock. Put him and good Walker and Ellis next to each other. You got exactly what you're looking for when it comes to a good interior, sometimes outside linebacker. You can move these guys anywhere. You got a pretty good duo right there. And then you already have Leonard Floyd as well. And you got a couple other guys like Braylon Trice is coming back. You got a pretty good, JD Bertrand's another one I didn't talk about. So and you did end up losing what's the guy from Colorado? Oh goodness, what is it? Nate Landman. You end up losing Nate Landman, but you bring him in, but you also got the other guy, Diablo. So you got a lot of guys that you can rotate in and out. And not only, we got to also understand that the draft itself, not the draft, but picking up players themselves, is not necessarily a situation where you are, picking players for a specific position. Outside of like if you got like a cover corner or you got like this, dominant, strong safety or whatever, those guys are going to stay in their place. But all these other guys, even guys that are on the defensive line, you got a D tackle that may be solidified as a D tackle. Sometimes they can move outside and inside to the edge rush, or sometimes, the linebackers are edge rushers, but they can cover as well. So you got a bunch of guys in that front seven, yet again, that can do a lot. We had, these type of guys before, like Nate Landman. We had, what's his name? He was our leader in tackles, and he ended up getting signed with the Jaguars. I can't remember his name, but he was absolutely excellent for us for that year, and he ended up getting a big payday. But you want those guys that you can rotate in and out that are athletic. So Jalen Walker can do a little bit of everything. Inside, outside linebacker, edge rusher. He had 61 tackles this season, played more snaps at inside linebacker, but he still recorded, 34 pressures. And that's something that the Falcons need. We were 31st in the league in sacks, but getting 34 pressures, that right there is pretty nice. And in the NFL, if you can get 34 pressures, in one season, you're probably going to get maybe, in my opinion, out of those pressures, you're probably going to get maybe 10 sacks. So this is what I'm talking about. Just like it says on the screen, he had 10 and a half tackles for loss last season. Even if you don't get to the quarterback, if you can get somebody down in the backfield, that's just as good. You know what I mean? So excellent pickup right here. And let's talk about the second part of this. Once that pick was over, everybody thought, okay, it's time to go to bed. Friday is about to come up. We still got to work. Got to go do our thing. Going to get a little bit of shutout. We know who we got. I feel good about the pick. Soon as I laid down, something told me to keep my earpiece in while I lay down for about another, at least to the end of the first round. Just lay in the bed and just listen, because I got my earpiece right here. Listen to 92.9 The Game on my phone while I lay down. All of a sudden, I hear that the Falcons traded back into the first round, gives up a first round for next year, which, that's not a big deal. To be honest, you basically use your first round for next year, this year, and they turn around and get James Pierce Jr. Now, a lot of people saying that this is a C grade pick. A lot of people are saying that this is a grade pick. I wonder if people will feel that way if he was just picked at 15 and we never traded. I guess a lot of people looking at the value of it. And I also think this is my thing. You know what I mean? I feel like there's people out here that really, really coveted first round picks. And I get it. Your first round pick is, a very valuable pick. It is not, but it's not the end all be all. It is not it doesn't define your entire draft, which we'll talk about once we look at these other picks. It doesn't define your entire draft. Just because you don't have a first round pick, that doesn't mean you can't be productive in as far as going through and getting other players or getting other other situations where you can still be successful based on your personnel. It's not the end of the world. So with that being said, I don't understand where people are, I do understand where people are kind of freaking out, but at the end of the day, I'm more like, hey, this is a really good look because the Falcons need edge rush. James Pierce Jr., edge rush out of Tennessee. I mean, this guy right here, I want to see if they got any of his information up here. Yeah, right. 2-time first team All SEC. He had 14 tackles for loss, 8th in the FBS with 10 sacks across 13 games. He led Tennessee in tackles for 13 in 2024 and 7.5 sacks. You're looking right here at a guy that had 17.5 sacks in 2 years. That's that's way very good production. You also had 13 plus 14. You had almost 27 tackles for loss. They had a little bit of off the field stuff. He arrested in 2023 for disobeying orders from police after being pulled over for speeding. You know what? It's okay. I don't think that's anything that's alarming. I mean, he disobeyed orders from the police when got pulled over. I mean, look, people get mad when they get pulled over. It's driving to suspend the license. Sir, just take care of your business. It should look like he did. He received the new driver's license and paid the speeding ticket. Let's not hold that over his head. You know what I mean? Look, like outside, if it's nothing like violent, nothing, against children or women or people in general, or anything like something that like is, let's say, morally outside of the realm of what we do in society, I'm not going to hold this against him. I mean, like, okay, look, I mean, we all had, speeding tickets, pretty much all of us. I mean, not all of us. Some of us are saints and nothing ever happened, but we all had speeding tickets. Maybe he was a little ticked off about getting a ticket. He was disobeying orders, and a disobeying orders charge is, I mean, what? Not just saying like I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do what you tell me. To me, that's totally different than what we've seen with other players. And this is nothing. And I think he'd be fine. I mean, everybody want to talk about this. I ain't gonna say everybody, but some people talking about this. But then again, the bias was showing because a lot of people wanted to get some of these Georgia Bulldog players who are really reckless behind the wheel. But that's another story for another. I don't want to get into that. But I think this is a very good pick when you look at the stats, you look at the player, and you look at what the Falcons need. Absolutely A+ on night one of the draft. I can't say that there was anything wrong with it. You want to talk about trading back in, losing your first round. You don't know what that first round pick is going to be. And the way that the Falcons are set up, we're probably looking at a situation where we could be picking 20, I'll say at the very least 23rd in next coming's draft at the in the first round. And if that's the case, it's a win-win. It's a win. I mean, even the Rams, they the one that got the pick. They win because they get an extra pick. We win because we got our player that really, like I said, we basically picked our first round pick for next year. We used our first round pick this year. So that's basically how I look at it. And it's all good. So I have no problems with that. All right, let's get into the next pick that the Falcons had. We didn't have a second round pick because I think we basically traded that pick in with the James Pierce pick. Round 3, we end up getting Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. You put this guy next to Jesse Bates. We all talked about how we thought it was going to be with Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. It did work out for like 2 or 3 games. But with you got a guy like Xavier Watts, possibly one of the best safeties, if not the best safety in the draft, you get him at extremely high value in the 3rd round. And I am ecstatic that this kid fell this far. I mean, you can make the case that this kid could have been a first round pick. I know Malachi Starks from the Georgia. I think he ended up getting picked right after. I think it was right after James Pierce. I can't remember. Damn good safety as well. Nothing to take away from him. But when you look at a guy like Xavier Watts, you're looking at a guy that pretty monikers and mimics what the Falcons secondary is like. You look at Jesse Bates, you look at AJ Terrell, you look at Clark Phillips, you look at Mike Hughes. It looked like Xavier Watts fits right into what that personnel is like. And there's nothing against any other safety or whatever, because we did need safety help. We need cornerback help. But I think picking up this player right here is absolutely phenomenal for what this team is built like. The Jerry Grays of the world, the defensive back coach wanted to get this guy immediately. So this is somebody that just works out for for the Falcons, and it is an excellent pickup. 6 foot 204, lauded his instincts and lead ball skills, tied with the FBS lead with 7 interceptions in 2023 and tied for second with 6 in 2024. So he had 13 interceptions in 2 seasons. I mean, that's amazing. Al Watts has experience playing single high safety in the box and at the nickel. So look, he can do a little bit of everything, which I doubt they may just move him around just like another Jesse Bates, and learning from Jesse Bates, because Jesse Bates is on the team. This is once again, this kid could be an elite rookie safety because of the personnel around him and his skills and his elite talent. So once again, 3rd round pick, extremely good value. Falcons once again make it happen. Shout out to Terry Fontenot and company. I cannot say anything bad about this pick as well, because this definitely was a need. And when you have a need like this is what you get. I mean, you can't beat that. Round 4, pick 118, Billy Bowman Jr. out of the defensive back out of Oklahoma, 5'10", 192. This is another really good pickup. This is another guy, the numbers speak for themselves. In 2023, at the finish, tied for 4th with 6 interceptions, leading the FBS with 3 pick sixes. 3 pick sixes. He went in 2024 with 54 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 3 pass breakups. Little bit small on his size, but at the end of the day, he's going to be able to do really good things. So that's just a plus. Put him around a nickel, put him around Clark Phillips. He's going to learn how to play that area. He's going to learn how to play from AJ Terrell to Mike Hughes of the world. He's going to be able to do all those other things. Hold on one second. All right. Yeah, I'm going to play when I finish, baby. So he has 11 career interceptions. Falcons plan on playing him nickel corner early in his career. I absolutely think that's going to be a thing, and he's absolutely going to be playing nickel. And this is the nickel corner that you wanted. We thought Clark Phillips was going to be that guy, but to be honest, Clark Phillips is more like a cornerback too. Him and Mike Hughes is probably going to go back and forth on trying to get that solidified, and it's a good problem to have. Now, same thing, Clark Phillips, Bowman. Basically, I think he's going to end up being behind Clark Phillips as far as the nickel, and I just think it works out. It works out phenomenal, because you can't have enough DBs, especially in this type of NFL that we have now. Which I think that you look at the big scheme of things. You have offensive first type of scenario, and this is why the Falcons went offensive first the past 4 or 5 years. Now they're doubling back and doing defense, and now you're starting to see that the team itself is starting to solidify, and this is where they're going. But the last pick of the draft, they did go offense in the 7th round. They picked up Jack Nelson, offensive tackle out of Wisconsin. This kid already said he wants to play right tackle. He prefers to play right tackle. How does that play out for Caleb McGarry? I don't know. I think for all his troubles, Caleb McGarry is actually, still solid. I don't think he has an issue with whatever, he had going on. He had some ups and downs as far as, blocking, but for the most part, he's been fairly solid. So you got more depth on the offensive line. Jake Matthews isn't getting any younger. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I have advocated, in the past, couple of years, it may be time to start looking for that successor to Jake Matthews. Maybe this a couple of years too early to look at that, because he's only like 32, 33. But it's something to probably think about, especially, let's just say in some type of scenario that his production goes down a little bit. He's not like the best blocker like he was before. And you may start seeing that. Why is this Gillette thing just popping up? Let's get around that. All right. He is 6'7", 314. Nelson started his last 50 games at Wisconsin, First 13 starts came at right guard at 2021. His final 37 was at left tackle. So he's more of a left tackle, but he said he feels better suited to play right tackle in NFL. I wonder why he will feel that. There's also rumblings. Well, I ain't gonna say rumblings. There's also tape that he's played pretty much everywhere except center. So you got a guy that could probably do a little bit of everything. And that's what you really want when it comes to any of these positions. If you want to get a lineman, you want a lineman that could probably do everything. You know, you're pretty much going to get a bona fide left tackle in some cases. I mean, that's just what it is. Some of these guys are just good at that. Same thing with edge rusher. You're going to find some bona fide edge rushers, but then again, you want guys who can move around a little bit. Same thing with linebacker. And outside of you having like that shutdown corner, you want a guy that can move a little bit anywhere and everywhere. So that's basically what you have with Nelson. And overall, I give this draft pretty much an A plus. I can go down and even say maybe A minus, or maybe I can even be, more lenient and just say B plus. And that's probably like the lowest I'll go. And saying B plus is like kind of, undercutting the situation because they did very good in this draft. This was a very, very good draft. And I'm walking away from this really impressed with what they've done. This is one thing I read earlier. I want to talk about this real quick. Not this one. Where is it? Okay. This one right here. Each of the 5 draft picks spent their entire college careers at the same school. You didn't have any guys that transferred, any guys that tried to go and do a new thing. These are guys that are that been with one school, and they're going to have some sense of brand loyalty when it comes to wherever they are. They're going to feel like they need to stay where they are. And guys who are transferring is not a knock on them, because sometimes them transfers is beyond their control. Some guys who transfer, they're looking for a good fit. These guys knew that they had a good fit from wherever they were, and they stayed at their respective colleges. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Also, the first 3 guys played in the college football playoff, so they have experience of playing on the big stage. You don't have these guys who are just raw talented and they can just play ball. Not only that, they know how to play in big games. I think did Notre Dame? I'm not sure. I think they played at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So you got Xavier Watson played there. You already know what it's like for Jalen Walker. He's been in and out of the Benz plenty of times. And James Pierce, he had playoff experience, so he's played at that high level. So it's good to have guys who know how to play in the big games and games with big atmospheres. And in some cases, you can make the case that college football games have a bigger atmosphere than the NFL in most cases. 100,000 people in the crowd screaming and yelling. And these guys are just performing at a high level. This is what you want. So kudos to the Atlanta Falcons. Excellent job with what they did. Like I said, I give them an A plus easily. So I really love what they did. Now I want to talk about the free agent signings, the undrafted free agents. We're going to get to that as well. Talk about them, and we're going to talk about Sheduer Sanders, and then we're going to get up out of here. Let's go here. Let me see if I can pull this up. I want to make sure this is going to be good on the screen so we can see what they have done, because I think that these undrafted free agents that were signed, they've done a phenomenal job with this as well. And it's just the good times keep rolling here. I don't know if y'all can see that, but let's see if I can pull that up a little bit higher. What is this? Okay, good. All right. The Atlanta Falcons, this is their undrafted free agent signings. And once again, I've seen people on X, I've seen people on Facebook, I've seen people all over actually giving the Falcons their flowers for making some of these great pickups in the undrafted free agent signings. So let's look at this. The signings that we have: Nate Carter, running back out of Michigan State; Nick Nash, San Jose State, which is a standout to me; Quincy Skinner out of Vanderbilt, which is another pretty good standout; Joshua Simon and Joshua Gray. Joshua Simons is out of South Carolina. You have Joshua Gray out of Oregon State; Jordan Williams, tackle out of Georgia Tech. You have Simeon Barrow, D lineman out of Florida. You got Nick Kubitz out of North Dakota State; Kobe Bryant, which is another standout, which I'm really excited about getting him, which I'm surprised he didn't even get drafted. That's kind of crazy he didn't get drafted. And you also have Dante Manning out of Oregon, another cornerback. The ones who stand out to me, let's see, do they have a profile on Nick Nash? Okay, here is his Twitter. Okay, this is just the Twitter just talking about okay, this is nothing. They just okay, this is what he did. Nick Nash signed up with the Falcons, 6'3", 205. Outstanding season for the Spartans, led all FBS receivers with 104 catches and 1,382 yards and 16 touchdowns. Why this kid did not get drafted, he has these type of numbers. What? You're standing at 6'3", 205, had 100 catches. That's crazy that he did not get drafted. Like, seriously, I didn't know that's wild. I did not know that. That's crazy. I didn't know much about him like that. I just knew that he had, a pretty good couple of games that I saw, but I didn't know his full numbers. That's crazy. All right, another guy, Kobe Bryant. I saw this. This is the first one that I saw over the wire. He signed up with the Falcons. 3-time first team All Big 12 with the Jayhawks. He had 13 career interceptions, including 2 pick sixes. This guy has a resume just like some of the guys that we drafted, and he goes undrafted. So you pick up Nick Nash and Kobe Bryant, not the basketball player, but you pick up Nick Nash and Kobe Bryant. These guys have numbers that probably could have been 3rd, 4th round players, and you get them undrafted. That's pretty impressive. That's actually really good. All the other guys, I mean, you can look up these guys and see what you can think of those, but those are the two that really stand out to me. I'm gonna look at Quentin C. Skinner really quick. No, they don't have any numbers on him, so there's not much there. And I'm gonna look at Dante Manning. Okay, not much on him either. Last one, Nate Carter. Now, think about Nate Carter. Let me see. Nope, they didn't say much about Nate Carter either. But one thing about him, he went to Michigan State. They usually have pretty solid running backs, even though like we do have some good running backs already, but it's good to have that situation as well. You just never know, what these guys can come out to be. Keep them on the practice squad, have something, to work with down the road. Player gets injured, bring them in. You just never know what you may have, until that happens. So very good, very solid undrafted free agent class as well. I do expect Nash and Bryant to make the team, especially Bryant, because really, even though you picked up 2 safeties in the draft, the one thing, and you did re-sign a couple of, I think you re-signed one of our cornerbacks. The thing about it is you can't have enough cornerbacks. You can't have enough. So with that being said, go ahead and bring him in, see what he does, see if he can outplay anybody, and see if he can be on that 53-man roster and just go from there. I think it's a win-win. I think it works out for everybody if you end up signing him, because I think he's going to be one of those guys, him and Nick Nash. Especially another thing about the receivers, what do you have at receiver? You got Drake, you got Darnell Mooney. I think, what's his name? Moore's coming back. You also have Casey Washington. What's going to happen with him? In my opinion, if Casey Washington don't step it up, I think Nick Nash is probably going to take his spot. And I think that's not a bad thing at the end of the day. I have nothing against Casey Washington, but I think that, that is, it's cool if you have either or, in my opinion. I think Casey Washington is fairly underrated, and I think he could have got a little bit more time on the field, but it is what it is. So overall, the Falcons had a solid draft. They had a solid look when it comes to the free agent side of things. They had a really good look on the undrafted free agent side of things. Outside of this cloud that's going over their head with this whole thing with Kirk Cousins, I think they're in good shape. I think they're pretty good, and I think that the Falcons are definitely moving in the right direction. I know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made some moves, and I also saw that the Carolina Panthers drafted okay. I'm scratching my head about the Saints. I don't know what the Saints are doing. It's kind of crazy with whatever they're trying to do. But I think the Falcons, once again, they are the front runners to take the NFC South again. And we had a stranglehold on the NFC South for half of the season until Kirk Cousins got hurt and he didn't want to tell anybody. We lost 4 in a row and the bottom fell out. That's just what happened, you know. So it is what it is. When you look at the whole scheme of things, I think the Falcons are going to bounce back. I don't see where there's a situation where the Falcons, they may not even use Kirk Cousins for as QB1. I think Michael Penix is going to be QB1. And I think that's just how the way it's going to work out. So what's up, son? All right, when I'm finished, you can play, okay? All right. So you want to play that when I'm done? All right, sounds good. Just give me about another 20, probably about another 20 minutes. I'm be up out of here. All right, son. All right, so let's get into Sheduer Sanders. I'm just giving my thoughts about it real quick. I don't even know. I just told my son 20 minutes. I don't know if this is going to take 20 minutes. I know there's a lot of talk about, Sheduer Sanders should have been a first round pick. Should have been a second round pick. Should have went down, he ended up going down to being a 5th round pick with the Cleveland Browns. And even the Cleveland Browns are like, we don't know if we want him or not. Now I think it's like really weird what's happening to him, and it's really unfortunate. But this is the thing. I don't know if it was like a thing to like quote unquote teach him a lesson or show him that he needs to be humbled or whatever the case may be, or was it just pure on football acumen or football skills is the reason? Yes, we can play that later, baby. I don't know if it's going to be anything where it's going to be football acumen or anything like that. I don't know. But what I will say is I feel that when you look at the football side of things, I think a lot of teams missed. The teams that needed quarterbacks missed. That's basically what it is. They could have gotten him at the very least. I could see him being a 2nd round pick. I don't know if he was a 1st round player. I didn't see that out of Sheduer Sanders. But, with the state of quarterbacks and the need of quarterbacks, it happens. You reach for quarterbacks because it's the most important position. So when the Giants went back and got Jackson Dart, why are we so surprised? Jackson Dart may be a pretty good football player, maybe a good quarterback, but that's what the Giants do. The Giants did this with what's his name? The kid from Duke, Daniel Jones. They did that with him. So who's surprised? The Browns. It's the Browns. What do you expect when it comes to quarterbacks? They got Flacco, they got Deshaun, they got Dylan Gabriel, which I'm like, I don't understand. You get Dylan Gabriel, then turn around and get Sanders. I don't know. And they got Kenny Pickett. I don't know what they're doing over there. It's the Browns. What do you expect? What other team that needed a quarterback? The Saints. The Saints end up getting some kid out of Louisville, which I don't understand that either. But hey, I don't see it. Some GMs just miss. Some GMs just, and I understand where a lot of people are coming from. Oh, they, this, that, and the third. It's some type of collusion. Well, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe it is. Be honest. Maybe it is. Maybe it is because there are rumblings, and I'm not saying that it's fair. I'm not saying that it is because I really think it's unfair that the thing with Deion Sanders being a coach, it's a lot of pressure on other coaches. It's kind of like it's kind of like that little league kid that comes out there and wants to play, on a football team or a basketball team, and you got that dad that's out there that people know that dad knows what he's talking about, knows what he's doing, and you don't want to do anything to go against whatever he may say or whatever he may do because his influence actually carries weight. So a lot of teams are just trying to avoid that because they don't want to be in a situation where if things go wrong, everybody's going to be calling, hey, Deion need to be the coach because that's his son. You don't want to lose your job that way, because it's one thing to go out there, draft the quarterback, you don't get the results you need, but you're able to live the fight another day because it's a year one process. But when you got a coach like Deion, and also a dad like Dell, which is a damn good father, that's going to be there for his son, you know, it puts a lot of pressure on that coach because when things go wrong, people going to want him out of there immediately. I mean, that's just. I mean, we got to be honest. It is what it is. People going to want him out there immediately, and it's just not going to work out well for said coach or said GM in some cases. Now, also, I will say is that another thing I will say is that I'm not sure if people want their quarterback to be as polarizing as some quarterbacks are, because we've seen this before. You saw it with the Tim Tebow's, or you saw it with the Kaepernicks of the world. And I'm not saying that he's on that level when it comes to those type of the issues that they brought, but he's on that level when it comes to talk and controversy, or talking based on, who all has a say in with their opinions about Sheduer Sanders. You saw it when he was in Colorado, and everybody was like, don't be so hard on him, this, that, and the third. And I agree, don't be hard on the kid because he's a kid and he plays football very well. Has he had some questionable situations under center? Yeah. Has he done some questionable things while he was actually trying to make plays? Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Those things happen when you basically are trying to make something out of nothing with the Colorado team that wasn't that good. For them to go 9-4 is actually, was actually pretty solid. But I don't think that Sheduer was a first round type of player. I don't believe that. The fact that he was going to go in the first round, in my opinion, because you had a Cam Ward, you had a Jackson Dart, you had Quentin Ewers, Dylan Gibb, you had those guys, and I'm like, he's literally like the second, or third best quarterback, probably even the best quarterback. So to me, I'm like, he could have went in the first round based on that, but I was more of the fact that if you just look at the way that he played the game, and even if you look at the numbers, I can see second round or I can see second round at the highest. I didn't see first round talent there. So, I mean, with that being said, I'm extremely shocked that he went down to the fifth round. But it kind of sucks, honestly. But I'm not ready to. I wasn't never ready to put him up on that pedestal where he is first round pick. Me personally, I never saw it. Now, another thing, like I said, with the pressure thing, you look at the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, in my opinion, is a better quarterback than Sheduer. They only won 5 games last season, but the fact that with all that talent that Caleb had, and he played pretty well, they didn't do very well in the loss column, but he was able to, the GM, the coach. I don't even think the coach, didn't they get rid of the coach? Man, I could be wrong. I could be right. I don't know. I can't remember. But nevertheless, they were able to get a second life on, Caleb Williams because, he's a work in progress, even though he put up decent numbers. They don't have any overhead where Caleb Williams has a domineering, backing with him. So if that was Sheduer, it would have been a really different story, and that's one of the things that a lot of coaches and a lot of GMs probably shied away from. And I'm not necessarily against that because people need their jobs at the end of the day. People need their jobs, and that's what they're going to want. They're going to want their jobs. They want to keep their job, and they don't want everything hanging off of one player. And in the NFL, you can lose your job based off one player easily, especially at the quarterback position. It can happen. So a lot of people basically played it safe. And I think that's what the Cleveland Browns did as well. They kind of played it safe. Let's go ahead and pick him up. I mean, he's a good talent, and we'll see where this goes. I would not be surprised if the Browns try to use him for trade bait. I'm gonna be honest, because I do feel at the end of the day, you get Dylan Gabriel, and between him and Sheduer Sanders, who's going to win out that job? To be honest, it don't really matter because one of those guys will probably be used as trade bait, and it will be a really good look for the Cleveland Browns to go ahead and try to get a second, get a third, or get a package deal where you can get a second and a third for one of these players because both of these quarterbacks are capable of being solid quarterbacks in the NFL. And you got Flacco, who's old. Kenny Pickett's not a number one guy, and you got Deshaun Watson, who they can't wait to get away from that contract. It's guaranteed. They can't wait to get up from under that. So basically, it's Gabriel and Sanders. And in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if the other three guys are on the bench and you're trying to put one of these guys in, and possibly you probably got a number one and number two until next year's draft, with somebody who may want a quarterback, or maybe later on this year, or somebody may want a quarterback and you trade him. Kind of like the situation we did with what's his name? I done forgot the quarterback that we had. Ritter. Same thing we did with Ritter, Desmond Ritter. Once we got the situation together with Kirk Cousins, and we knew we was gonna get Michael Penix, which I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm gonna probably close out with this. I know this may be a hot take. I probably would have kept Desmond Ritter at quarterback number 3. Instead of I probably would have kept him at number 3. And whatever happens with Kirk Cousins, whatever happens with, Michael Penix, or whatever case may be, you move away from Kirk Cousins for the most part. I would have kept Desmond Ritter as like a practice squad guy. But I think, we end up fleecing the Arizona Cardinals by getting Moore, which I think Moore is going to be really good. He had a knee injury, but I think he's going to be a really good slot guy as well. I want to see him get back in the swing and things and see how that goes. But outside of that, I still could looking back on it, just to have him there would not have been a bad look. Would you saw playing time? Not, but I don't think so. I mean, but after watching him in the Raiders game, he looked like he matured a little bit. Looked like he played a little bit better. And with him being under Penix and being under Kirk Cousins, he probably would have done fairly well for himself. I think the Falcons would have done well. But at the end of the day, that was Arthur Smith's guy. That wasn't Raheem Morris's guy. So I can see where they're going with that. Nevertheless, I know that's probably like a little crazy hot take, but it is what it is. I'm going to get up out of here. Been here about 45 minutes. I did say an hour, 10 minutes. I don't know what I was going to do with the rest of the time, but I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. We talked about the draft, the undrafted free agents. Wait a minute, son. He is so excited. He wants to play some games. I got you, son. What else? I just lost track. Oh yeah, we talked about the draft. We talked about undrafted free agents. I think the Falcons did a very good job. The Falcons are going up. In my opinion, I think they're going up. I think they're going to go in an ascending fashion. I think they did a very good job. Also, when you look at Sheduer Sanders, I don't look at it no crazy way or nothing. I just don't. I mean, sometimes things happen, and it's not a very popular thing for things to happen. But as far as the football side of things, I think he should have been a second round pick. But GMs missed, and we also got to think to ourselves, there are a lot of teams in the NFL that has quarterbacks. I think now we're looking at a situation where at least 85% of the teams or 80% of the teams have their number one QB in some form or fashion. So I don't think every team really needed to get a quarterback now or never. I mean, even with you look at the Titans, they picked Cam Ward. Will Levis had his ups and downs, but I mean, I've only looked at it from afar. Will Levis was not that bad of a quarterback, but Cam Ward was there. You get Cam Ward, you turn around and look at the Saints. If it wasn't for Derek Carr being super duper injured, they probably wouldn't have got a quarterback either. Spencer Rattler was okay, but he wasn't that guy. So I see them taking a quarterback as well. But either way, if that's more of a Derek Carr injury than anything, not a necessarily we suck at quarterback. Who else? That the Giants. You just picked up Jameis Winston, and you picked up what's his name? Short guy, Wisconsin, Seattle, Russell Wilson. You just picked up Russell Wilson. You literally could have went into that draft. Went into the season with that quarterback combination and not pick Jackson Dart. They could have done that. I think 1 year of Russell Wilson would have been straight. But then again, maybe they're feeling like they're never going to be in a situation where they get to pick a quarterback in the first round. So they pick Jackson Dart. So there are scenarios where quarterbacks are somewhat needed, but this quarterback draft class wasn't really that good. And you got like 80 to 85% of teams already got their quarterback. So when you look at Quinn Ewers, you look at Dylan Gabriel, you look at Sheduer Sanders, you even look at Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, the market is not like how it was last season. Last season, I mean, you had like the first 3 quarterbacks taken, and Michael Penix taken in the 8th, and you got some other guys taken later. I mean, you teams needed quarterbacks, and on top of that, some of these quarterbacks that came out in the draft were like generational talent. Jaden Daniels is going to be like phenomenal. Michael Penix is going to be phenomenal. You know what I mean? You know, Drake May might be that dude. You know what I mean? So you're looking at guys who are overtly talented, unlike how it was when, you know, Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder came out with this year's draft. It's not the same. You know, this draft was kind of reminiscent of that draft. But last year, those quarterbacks was too good to pass up. You know, so and that's just how it plays out sometimes. But I'm gonna get out of here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Shout out to the people who came through and watched. Thank God everybody who liked the video or liked who liked the live stream. Really appreciate you guys. I'm going to be going live on my other channel in a few hours because I got to talk about the room that I got here or whatever case may be. I set up the room pretty awesome, and I want to talk about that on the VF Cast channel. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to get up out of here. See y'all on the next one. Y'all take it easy and y'all be blessed. All right, I'm out. Peace. Okay, baby, you let me know.